Welcome to this explainer. Right now, Sony's gaming universe is literally at its most chaotic, and honestly, its most exciting turning point in years. We're witnessing skyrocketing hardware prices, a legendary next-generation console looming on the horizon, and a console war that is about to get stranger than ever. So today, we're going to separate the hype from the reality and look at exactly what's happening behind the scenes with the PlayStation 6. Okay, let's just dive right into this. $899.99. Wow, that is the actual price of the PlayStation 5 Pro. Add a disk drive, an extra controller, maybe a couple of games, and you're easily looking at over $1,400 just to enter PlayStation's top-tier ecosystem today. Now, what's really interesting about this pricing is what it represents historically. For 30 years, we've had this fundamental expectation that gaming consoles become cheaper to manufacture and buy over their lifespan, right? Well, that tradition has officially been shattered. So I know exactly what you're probably thinking, and it's a completely valid frustration. Why are consoles suddenly getting so expensive? Sony officially cited continued pressures in the global economic landscape for their recent price hikes. But the real story runs much deeper than just a simple corporate PR statement. To understand the future of the PlayStation 6, we have to look at this massive global shift happening in technology right now. It basically comes down to a direct head-to-head clash between gaming console memory demand and massive AI data center needs. The explosive global AI boom is absolutely devouring the world's supply of DRAM and manned memory chips. These AI data centers are buying up memory at a scale that consumer electronics manufacturers simply cannot compete with. And because consoles like the PlayStation rely heavily on those exact same components, it's becoming drastically more expensive for Sony to manufacture their hardware. So the age of consoles automatically getting cheaper, that's over, at least for now. All right, Section 1, under the PS6 hood. Let's pivot from the sobering economic reality of today to the massive, highly anticipated technical leap we're going to see with the new hardware. Sony is continuing its partnership with AMD, but guys, the leap is staggering. We're moving from a 7nm manufacturing node on the base PS5 to a highly efficient 2nm process from TSMC for the PS6. We're upgrading from Zen 2 CPU architecture all the way to Zen 6, which should basically eliminate those annoying CPU bottlenecks. And on the graphics side, moving to RDNA 5 architecture translates to a huge jump in raw computing power. We're talking going from about 10 teraflops to a projected 34 to 40 teraflops. That means roughly 3 times the raw rasterization performance of the base PS5. But, raw power isn't the whole story here. The crucial takeaway is this 6 to 12 times multiplier. This represents the jaw-dropping projected leap in ray tracing performance. And this isn't just a minor graphical bump. It's being driven by new dedicated hardware blocks from AMD called Radiance cores. Basically, these cores take full control of ray traversal, freeing up the rest of the GPU. It's going to fundamentally change how lighting, shadows, and reflections actually look in next-generation games. Which leads us directly to a wildly ambitious target, running native 4K resolution at 120 frames per second. Now, how do they actually achieve this without melting the hardware? The magic word is AI. Sony is heavily investing in AI upscaling tech, specifically PSSR 3.0. That's PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, working right alongside video frame interpolation. So instead of rendering every single frame the traditional hardware-heavy way, the console will literally use AI to generate additional frames in between. This is what delivers buttery smooth 4K gameplay while keeping the actual hardware workload totally manageable. Moving on to Section 2, the Project Canis handheld. Now, Sony has a massive wild card in their strategy to build out this hardware ecosystem. And I want to make sure the definition here is incredibly clear. Project Canis is absolutely not a streaming accessory like the PlayStation Portal. It's a powerful, standalone, next-generation device built on a 3nm AMD architecture. It's being designed from the ground up to be a native part of the PlayStation 6 ecosystem, likely launching alongside or very shortly after the home console. Running through these leaked handheld specs, we're looking at some serious power for a portable device. It packs 16 RDNA 5 compute units and potentially up to 48 gigabytes of RAM. But what I really want you to notice are those CPU cores. It dedicates 4 Zen 6C cores specifically to gaming, and then it offloads the PlayStation operating system entirely to 2 low-power Zen 6 LP cores. By physically separating that OS workload, it frees up roughly 20% more performance purely for your games. That is huge. And when you put it head-to-head with the base PlayStation 5, the results are honestly pretty shocking. Despite a rumored manufacturing cost of just $46 for the handheld's APU chip, Canis in its docked mode is actually expected to boast significantly stronger ray tracing performance than your current base PS5. Plus, with its advanced architecture and memory bandwidth, it's projected to comfortably beat premium PC handhelds like the Xbox RG LAX.
Okay, Section 3, Decades of Backward Compatibility.
Let's shift gears to the software side of things because, let's face it, hardware is basically a paperweight without the games. This is where we see Sony's master plan to keep players locked into a single unified PlayStation ecosystem. Sony is essentially building a massive bridge across generations. The leaks indicate that both the PlayStation 6 and the Conus handheld are being designed to natively play games spanning all the way back to the 2013 launch of the PlayStation 4, right up to the modern era. You are not going to have to leave your library behind.
But it actually might go even further than that. A recently filed patent by PlayStation's lead system architect Mark Cerny hints at full backward compatibility across all PlayStation generations. Now, this suggests Sony is actively working on unifying absolutely everything onto a single platform, potentially finally overcoming those notoriously complex emulation hurdles of the old cell broadband engine from the PlayStation 3 days. If they can actually pull this off, it's an unbelievable value proposition for the PS6.
And it's not just about making life easier for us players, they are radically simplifying things for game studios too. According to recent patents, Sony is looking at ditching traditional bulky development kits. Instead, they plan to offer developers new PCIe console component cards that can literally just be plugged into a regular PC. Paired with direct cloud integration, this replaces clunky hardware constraints, significantly speeds up game development pipelines, and ultimately helps studios get their games out to us much faster.
Which brings us to Section 4, the real release window.
So we've got incredible specs and amazing handhold, backward compatibility, but when do we actually get our hands on it? Well, historically, PlayStation operates on a strict 7-year cycle. Following the PS5 launch in 2020, that traditional math points straight to a late 2027 release. However, remember that AI memory shortage we discussed earlier? Because of those unprecedented, crippling component costs, financial analysts and Bloomberg reports strongly indicate Sony is likely pushing the launch back to 2028, or maybe even 2029. They simply have to wait for those component prices to stabilize to keep the retail price from becoming completely out of reach for average consumers. And this potential delay really sets the stage for a fascinating kind of console war. On one side, you have Sony's PlayStation 6, a highly refined, closed ecosystem relying heavily on high-end narrative exclusives that you just can't play anywhere else on day one. On the other side, you have Microsoft's rumored Xbox Project Helix, a console PC hybrid that will reportedly natively support PC storefronts like Steam and Epic Games. These are two fundamentally different philosophies battling for dominance in your living room. So this brings us to the ultimate question you have to ask yourself right now as a consumer. Are you willing to wait until 2028 for the ultimate PlayStation, or are you jumping ship to a gaming PC today? With the PS6 promising a massive technical leap but carrying a rumored launch price of around $600 to $700, and with the agonizing wait stretching potentially into 2029, that choice has literally never been more complicated. Let that provocative thought sink in for a bit. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep your eyes on the horizon.